We are live. This is live from our living room, from your living room, or any toilet you may be sitting on. This is our first television episode, and we are doing it on Secret Invasion. Came out today. Watched it the hour it came out, just for this, and we've all watched it today, and we're going to talk about it. I discussed with Robert just before we started the podcast, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
We are thinking of doing a few minutes of spoiler-free.
Okay.
And then we are going to go on to spoiler talk, but we will let the audience know when that will be. So the first few minutes will be spoiler-free, and there'll be a timestamp in the video, so you'll see when it changes, and we'll also give a warning when we're going spoilers. But
That's fine.
okay, ready?
Yeah.
So, general thoughts on the episode? Robert?
I actually really liked it for an intro to the TV show. I thought it was one of Marvel's best ones.
Brandon?
To sum up, I think it's probably the best directed. I love how it was presented and shot.
Yep.
I think the acting was pretty phenomenal throughout. I really like Ben Mendelsohn. He's really good as Talos. Obviously Nick Fury's good and everything. I guess only negative, it's like that's not a spoiler alert, not a spoiler, is that I think it was a little bit too hard for me to follow. A little bit, like I'm like even if it just comes to like timeline wise and stuff, I'm just like, right, wait a minute, like where are we? Where's Nick Fury been? Like I'm just like I'm a bit confused, and I'm like a massive fan, so it's like I can't imagine a casual fan being able to follow it if I've struggled. I don't know if you guys think the same thing, but I guess we'll see.
I never come up, but now that you mention it, maybe there needs to be a bit more discussion on when exactly this is.
The only thing I had an issue, but I agree with on is the timeline. I'm a bit confused by that.
I think in the spoiler part, the spoiler portion, we can probably talk about the timeline and what events mean that this is when this is in the timeline. But it's hard to discuss timeline in the spoiler-free chat.
Okay. We'll take it then.
Yeah. My general thoughts were I thought it was pretty strong, and I'm not the biggest fan of like just espionage kind of stories. But no, I really liked the intro especially. I thought I'm not usually one for narration either, but I really liked the little Ben Mendelsohn narration at the start. And then
that's fair.
I liked the little first scene. I liked the intro in general. I thought the opening. I thought the opening theme. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I found out that the art they used was all created by AI as well. Yeah.
Yep. You could tell. Yeah. Yeah. That was my next comment. It was all done with AI. I guess that feeds into the plot though, right? Is that
yeah.
Not everything is necessarily human, or as it appears.
Or it's hard to tell, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or easy if you've seen any AI video on the internet before. Keep up, Marvel. That was 6 months ago. Cool intro. Yeah. I thought, in general, the way they shot it, like you were saying, I thought there was some interesting shots in here that I didn't expect, especially from like a Marvel property. Yeah. I don't know who's responsible for that. I don't know who's involved, but...
Because again, I won't get into it, but like the first scene's literally just like people talking, and I thought the way it was shot was just really cool. But I can't even put my finger on it. I was just like, I'm vibing with this. Like I really like how this is looking.
I'll get more specific when it comes to spoiler talk, but I thought in general it looked like a really good show. Yeah. The cast obviously kept pretty stacked.
It is pretty stacked.
TV show.
Like, oh my god! Like the more it continued, I was like, oh my god! Like this is like actually banging. Oh my god! Like, jeez.
Yeah. Well, you have. I think we can say this because she's been in promotional material, but like you're like halfway through episode and you're like, damn, this is a stacked cast, and then the Queen walks in and you're like, what the fuck? Like
the Queen.
Goddamn. The Queen, yeah, Miss Olivia Colman.
Oh yeah.
Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is probably one of the stronger shows, and if it keeps up like this, stronger intros to a show, and if it keeps up like this, then I'll be more than happy with the show, I reckon. But I almost felt like there was, compared to some of the other shows, almost too much in the first episode. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, I just mean in relation to some of the other episodes, not a lot happens in the intros. It's usually just like setup. and obviously this is set up too. But there's some quite big events in this episode as well. I think that have like some decent ramifications for the series
Like,
and the MCU.
like, like stuff just happened a bit too fast. Is
Um,
that what you mean?
well, I think that'll depend on where the series goes, how I feel at the end of the series, because there's some things in here where I think you probably could have left them another episode or two to heighten the kind of mystery, but they were kind of revealed quite soon.
I thought that as well when I was watching it because they reveal a couple things and I was like, that was that
Yeah.
was fast.
But if it means that we're just hitting the ground rolling and you're getting more and the keeping the pace of this episode in the later episodes, then I'll be fine with it because then at least it was just it had to be done sort of thing in the intro.
Yeah.
But if the pace does slow down, that'll be maybe one of my issues is that maybe they should have extended some scenes out. But
Typically in a Marvel show, it's usually pretty solid for the most part, and then it doesn't like land at the end. And that's like that's the typical Marvel show, like WandaVision and with the what came out was it was
Falcon and Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
Winter Soldier and Moon Knight.
Moon.
Yeah, like they were like pretty solid throughout. I thought until the end, and it was like they kind of like it was like didn't feel worth it, did it? Just whereas like Loki was the opposite. Whereas I think it ended well, but the rest of the show was quite mid in my opinion. But I know everyone's got different opinions on that. But
It's been so long I can't remember specifics. I just remember generally what I liked and what I didn't.
yeah,
There's some shows where I can like look back and I'm like, oh, I remember what I like, and then there's others where I can't remember a thing.
Any last takers for spoiler free? Anything you'd like to say for our lovely audience that hasn't seen it yet, but are for some reason watching our video?
I like the costumes and the makeup and the like the CGI or the prosthetics. Like I think it looks solid.
I think they're working to their strengths in terms of CG
Yeah.
because the CG doesn't. I mean, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's stellar, but I think some of the scenes, especially some of the transitions or the lighting in certain scenes, they've taken advantage of that to make the CG better, considering probably the budget for this is lower than you would have for a movie, say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm happy to go into spoiler if you want to move on to spoiler territory. Okay, right into spoilers. So, Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman is dead.
now is that him?
No, that's not Martin Freeman. Nah, no way.
Martin Freeman is dead.
No, he's
I'm
not. No, he's
confused.
not.
I'm like, was that him?
No,
Is that like was that him the Skrull the whole time kind of thing, or was...
no, I don't think so. I think it was a scroll that's
I
just.
think it's too ambiguous to say.
Yeah.
I don't know because it came across as it was just the scroll disguised as him to get the information.
The thing is, later on in the episode, they do take their memories, so it could be that. I mean, the only thing I would say in favor of that is that we saw the bad Skrulls that were hiding in Russia. It looked like Chernobyl. I don't know if it was specifically Chernobyl, but it was definitely a radioactive area. That they were taking the likeness of people, hooking them up to these machines, and then extracting their memories too.
Yeah.
Obviously to sell the deal better. So it could be that we've been seeing Martin Freeman from the beginning as a Skrull. It could be that he was swapped out in between any one of his appearances.
It just seems too out of place in my opinion, because like we've seen him in Black Panther and stuff, and like why would the Skrull when it? Because like he's going about with his ex-wife and stuff, it just seems way too random for a Skrull to
I
be
guess maybe to keep up
involved with.
appearances, but I think the thing is it would make sense though, because the whole point in the Skrulls is to get Pally with folk in power, and he's been hanging out with T'Challa,
Yes.
and he's like he's the Wakandan ambassador to America, right?
Yeah.
So like he's in a good position of power, so that's kind of where a Skrull wants to be. So either Martin Freeman's character Agent Ross has been real, and then a Skrull has seen him in that position and thought that's going to be a profitable place for me to slot in, or they've been running it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it's too ambiguous to say right now, but I think maybe the way that it was shot, because it's so early in the series, I have a feeling he's still alive.
I did like the little twist though, because I originally thought the other guy, I can't remember his name that he was talking to, I thought he was going to be the Skrull, and then because I was like, oh, what was that all about? And then Martin Freeman was the Skrull, and I was like, oh my god.
I think the thing is as well. Well, I figured Martin Freeman was the Skrull, but I didn't realize it was going to be Ben Mendelsohn chasing him. But yeah, I liked the way that was shot. I thought that was really kind of inventive for like just a kind of run of the mill foot chase.
Yeah.
I thought it was shot really nice. I even just the POV shots, I didn't expect that. Like I'm a bit of a sucker for POV shots, but I like when he's like pushing folk out the road and you kind of see the hands throw out and stuff. And then I think I especially liked the bit where the camera's set up at the bottom of the building, looking kind of up at the first floor. Americans, the ground floor is on the ground. Um, Looking at the first floor, so the second floor for you across the pond, and kind of looking up, and then you see the light come on, and you see Agent Ross and then Ben Mendelsohn's character run round the stairwell, and then the next light goes up, and then you see them run round again and again and again. I really liked the way that was shot. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty good. I mean, as far as like foot chases go, I thought that was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Considering they don't have like super soldiers, they don't have that advantage in terms of like a Captain America and T'Challa and Bucky foot chase. I thought it was pretty good.
For sure.
No, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right, okay, right. Nick Fury, right. So, when is he last officially been in? Because there was a post-credit scene where he was revealed to be a Skrull, right? I can't remember what film that was.
That was Far From
Was that Far From Home? So that was after
Yeah.
Endgame. So how long is Nick Fury been...
I think that's the thing, right? That's what they're playing with in this series, is that he's left Earth and he's left a Skrull in his position just to
Which
kind of
was-
maintain
Which
appearances.
is Ben... not Ben. What's his name? Mendelsohn. Yeah, yeah. He was being Nick Fury, right? That was what was revealed.
So at least for some point in time,
Yeah.
yeah. At least when we seen him in Far From Home. But what that means is that I think the thing they're playing off in this series so far, and they've been hammering it home pretty hard, and I think maybe even a little too hard, is that Fury wasn't here to help the Avengers
But when though?
or coordinate them. Well, at least when Thanos came, because they keep playing off the thing of you were never the same when Thanos blipped you back, so like when you got blipped back after Thanos' snap.
Yeah, so that he must have been real then, because he's having like memories from the blip.
No, yeah, he was real when you saw him get blipped in
Infinity War.
So at some point between, no, because Far From Home was after, right?
Yeah.
He disappears. Oh wait, I see what you mean now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's on Earth. He's on Earth at least during the snap. He might have been off Earth before then and then come back, or he's set up the whole Saber initiative after the blip.
Because there was another post-credit scene at some point where he was in the space station. Is that Captain? No, it wasn't Captain Marvel, was it?
No, it was after.
I feel like it was.
Was it Far From Home again?
Nah, I feel like it was recent.
Was there not two?
I'll give it a wee look.
Right. Well, I mean, just general thoughts on Agent Fury, Nick Fury, in general in the episode. I thought he was kind of off at the start, to be honest. I felt like it was just Samuel Jackson rather than Nick Fury. And then as the episode went on, I started buying it more that it was Nick Fury, and I really got to the point where I was a bit like, yeah, I think this is kind of what some of the other films have been missing, is like Sam Jackson's just, he's really great in this, just straight off the bat. Well, not straight off the bat, but like, you know, he's really like a standout for this episode, I think, in a cast of other folk who could as well be standouts.
Well, yeah, like they introduced Ben, Olivia, Emilia Clarke, like Olivia Colman, which are like in my opinion, I think they're all like 10 out of 10 actors, and when each of them were with each other, they stole the sentence. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they took your attention away. But I really liked Samuel Jackson in this. I think he's more interesting.
I'm glad they've given him some sort of like arc to go on, because like he's always just kind of been your like your tying together figure. He's never really needed like an arc. He's never really needed the characterization. He just needs to be that presence on screen that can tell the Avengers to get in shape.
Yep.
And now that they're not there, he's actually quite like a charismatic, quite like he could carry the show quite easily.
I completely agree. I also really I had said earlier, I really liked like the costume design and all that, and I love the way he looks in this, because it's so different from how he looks in the movies, right? with like
Well, I think
that.
that's again feeding into the whole "you're not the same after the blip" that everyone keeps telling him. Is that he's not even wearing his eye patch?
And his like his almost trench coat, like professional style. He just looks like a fisherman almost, with his like his woolly jumper and his hat that like
Yep.
goes under his over his ears.
There is. I mean, we can keep talking about positives and then go into some negatives, or we can just kind of do it in order of the show. Because I have a criticism I could bring up just now.
Yeah, go for it. Absolutely, go.
I think it's hard to tell because, so Maria Hill, I forget her actress's name, but Maria Hill, the character, she has quite a few times. What was that?
Kobe Smulders.
Kobe Smulders. She has quite a few times, and there's quite a few times in this episode where she tells Fury like, "Oh, you're different."
Yeah.
I'm not sure when would she have interacted with Fury if he was on the space station all the time. How would she know he's different?
Because she was a Skrull as well in the post-credits, I swear.
Oh, I suppose that makes sense. She would have been on the space station with him, right?
And then, like, what the heck?
Yeah.
But like, what was she doing? I don't think she was on the space station. I don't know. That's what I'm being like. Some things I'm just like,
Right.
what's like.
Well, the other thing is, we
where
might
has
be getting
people
answers to that stuff later on, right?
So then the one we saw, that's the real one, not the Skrull, right?
Yeah. Well, she didn't change when she spoilered died at this episode.
Yeah.
So she didn't change back to a Skrull, right? So she was
Yeah.
obviously the real one. I did like the fake out because when she got shot, my first intention was, oh, she's the Skrull, and it's going to get revealed when she dies. And then you realize that it's Samuel Jackson that's the Skrull, not Maria. My only thing is, right, I think both of the reveals kind of worked in this episode. So you had the chase, you had like the double bluff where you have the chase with Martin Freeman. You're focusing on Martin Freeman, not the guy who's chasing him. The guy who's chasing him is Ben Mendelsohn. In the finale, you are focusing on Samuel Jackson and Maria Hill.
Yep.
And Maria Hill is the kind of one you're focusing on as the one you think might be the Skrull. And then they pull it out that it's Samuel Jackson. So they've done it twice in one episode, and I think that's probably enough for the show already. As in, like, you're going to have to find a more inventive way to do this in future. Otherwise it's going to get old real quick.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's hard as well though, because their thing is, who can you trust? Like who's really
I don't
who,
mean
right?
exactly like, oh, you shouldn't reveal anyone new. I just mean if you're going to reveal someone now, you have to do it in a more inventive way, I think.
Right, got you. I must say I have a negative about that scene actually.
Okay.
Where I found it too clunky to follow. Like I really struggled with.
Do you know specifically what you were having struggle with following with?
It was like there's explosions happening and people were running about, but at the same time, like the Skrull Samuel Jackson, when he shoots, wasn't it Agent Marie?
Maria Hill, yeah.
Yeah, Maria. When he shoots Hill, and then he goes to shoot her again, you've got like a 5 second pan, like going back to Samuel, and then going back to him, and then he looks up, and then he doesn't shoot her, and I just found that was a bit like he was going to shoot her and then he didn't, and then also everyone running about, but only seeing. Sorry, not only seeing the guy who did the explosion, who was like right near it, and Samuel Jackson not get injured or like harmed at all. I just found that it was like too messy and clunky that they felt really safe.
Could say that could be intentional because it's a terrorist attack and there is chaos going on, and that might just feed into that. It could be a style choice, but it might not be.
No, I understand that if it was, that's how they were telling it. I just found it a bit, I guess, difficult.
I never had that issue specifically, but I would say I really like the finale, just even if for what it sets up, because it's kind of an issue for MCU, not even lately, but just over the course of it in general, is it's always seemed a little. Obviously, there's exceptions and some major exceptions, but it's always seemed a little sanitized, where nothing really matters all that much.
Oh, 100%, because it doesn't happen until Civil War, sorry, where the heroes actually are like
Split up.
their actions have consequence,
Yeah.
right?
And I think, well, obviously, the obvious like massive example is Infinity War. But then I guess most of that is undone. You only really lose Iron Man and Black Widow in the process, right? And Gamora. Yeah, and I really, if they keep, as long as they don't bring everyone back, like, because you know, like, it's that thing as well of, you know, when you're I'm not going to be able to give a specific example here, but you'll know what I'm talking about, is whenever there's like some sort of thing happens to the general public in Marvel, there's always like some news announcement after it that's like, and everyone survived miraculously. Spider-Man saved everybody.
Well, except like in Civil War, where like they were like, all right, this is why we have to have this whole legal
Yeah,
situation, because
but that
everyone.
only happened once at the start, right?
Well, they included the whole in Age of Ultron part, yeah,
But
and
everyone in
New
Sokovia
York.
survived, right? Or most people in Sokovia
No,
survived, like
no.
on Sokovia, but not below, right?
I feel like at the time it made it out as people got away with it and they kind of retconned it for Civil War,
Right,
maybe.
fair
But
enough.
but yeah, I know what you mean though. Like some, for the most part, it doesn't feel
Yeah,
like it matters in the long
this
run.
is the total opposite. There's literally no way there's no way you could do that here, surely. Like, be like, oh, everybody survived. You literally see people like get blown across the whole
Yeah,
courtyard. Like,
Yeah,
people died.
absolutely.
Like,
I did like that. I thought that was good. You actually see civilians like
eating it.
shot. Just yeah, because in the first Avengers, I don't remember seeing anybody getting killed. Like you see,
It's hard,
but
right?
like when you watch Shazam, the second Shazam, you literally see this like you follow this woman for like 5 seconds. She survives and then she gets killed immediately
Right.
by like these like random creature thingies, and then it's good to see that they've done that in this.
Okay, so if we rewind a bit, so Nick Fury's back on Earth. He gets teleported down from his little spaceship. He meets Maria Hill. They have a little cuddle.
I actually really like the shot of the him when the door opens up and he looks like this sort of. I feel like it's a reference to something, but like the shadow looked like an alien kind of figure, which is
Right.
obviously meant to because he's coming from space, and I actually really liked it. And then he steps into the
Yeah.
focus, and that I like that.
I think in general, I like the MCU hints in this one a bit more because it's not so. I don't know, like they kind of felt a bit more natural. Where like when he brings up the Avengers, he's doing it in kind of like an off. It's not like a direct joke.
Yeah,
It's like a sarcastic kind of like, oh man, my life is total
he's
fucked. Like
like, what did you do at your midlife crisis? I made the
made the
Avengers.
Avengers, yeah, yeah.
So.
And I think probably the written on the page that does come across as like an MCU style joke, but I think they're the way they kind of deliver it in the show is
They're,
a bit more
the thing
like
is,
subdued.
they're both really good actors, so it's like they
Yeah,
can
yeah.
they can pull it off. You know what I
And
mean?
I think they did like pretty well as a duo as well. I
They
quite
really
like the
did.
little
Yeah,
Sam Jack Ben Mendelsohn because
yeah.
I loved the bit when they had that fight and Ben Mendelsohn's obviously trying to preserve as many Skrull lives as he can, even if they're against him.
hmm
Because I guess there was a comment that he said that he's been ousted from the council, sort of thing. So he's no longer has a say in how the quote unquote friendly Skrulls are occupying Earth. So he, even though he's fighting against these Skrulls who disagree with him on like ideological grounds, he's still trying to like not kill people. But Samuel Jackson does not have a problem with that at all, and he's like, "Let me take the fight, let me take the fight," and Samuel Jackson just fucking kills him, and he's like, I told you no." I like that. That was a really good scene.
Yeah.
I really
And
like
like
that scene.
keep in mind as well, like these two are like older actors, so it's rare for a Marvel show or movie to have like two older men like be the main characters. It's usually like a spry young man or like woman, like fit, and so like these guys are, like not in their prime, So I just think that's an interesting sort of
And they kind of touched on that, right? Where like Ben Mendelsohn can't beat the crap out of this other Skrull because I guess he's meant to be like a middle-aged Skrull, right?
yeah.
He's not meant to be like in his prime.
hmm
And obviously Samuel Jackson's like in his 70s. I don't know how old Nick Fury is. Probably like 60 something in the show.
They're probably around the same roughly.
So yeah, obviously you can't have a 60-year-old doing all these like big acrobatic stuff. So like he just like straight up just clocks the guy with a little pistol. So yeah, the Amelia Clark. I I liked her intro. I liked the kind of you got to see the kind of good side of like the terrorist Skrulls first.
Yeah.
But I think the reveal that she is Ben Mendelsohn's daughter came. I feel like we didn't
Yes.
get to know her enough for it to be like, oh wow, like they're related. Because I feel like that would probably be a good reveal, and I think the reason it's a good reveal is because Skrulls are shapeshifters, obviously, so you can't tell their actual age. So you could have two Skrulls that look very similar in age, not only just because they live longer, but just you could even have a Skrull that's older. The person they're replicating is older than the person their parent is replicating. So you could have like a really fun thing with like that. And I felt like I wouldn't have expected her character to be related to Ben Mendelsohn's character, even later on in the series. So I feel like they could have left that longer. What do you guys think about that?
I won't lie. I completely missed that. Him being the dad. I don't know how I missed that, but I did. All I remember is her finding out that her mum's dead.
Yeah, it was in that scene.
I must have been distracted during that. I completely missed that.
I
I'm spoiling,
no, I
I'm
agree.
spoiling stuff for our own hosts.
No, that's
now.
fine. That's
He
fine.
didn't listen to the spoiler alert. He
Context.
should have listened harder to the spoiler alert.
He hasn't even done his homework
Shocking.
properly.
I've got notes. I have notes, Brandon. Do you have notes?
Mate, I don't need notes.
Oh
I'm
well,
freaking-
maybe you'd have written down a note. Amelia Clark, daughter? Question mark.
No, I knew about the mum bit, and I thought that's why she cried earlier, because she found out her mum was dead, right? Or was she crying because she found out that's her dad? I don't know.
I think it's because she hit him as well. Like she found out her mum was dead, but it was also because she was like betraying her dad as well. I think in the process, that's what I kind of read it as.
Yeah. I actually have a question on that.
Okay.
See, during that whole fight scene of her and Hill, and then Ben comes in, her dad.
Yo.
What happened to Hill? Like, why did she just not show up again?
So the reveal could happen, and I mean, she was supposed to be waiting in the car or something, was she?
But because yeah. So she was waiting in the car, and then she follows Amelia Clark's character,
Yeah.
and then they have a little brawl.
But maybe the reason she left is because Ben Mendelsohn's character was already there, and she knew she could take on a Skrull, and so she went back to the car or something. Because she was supposed to be there anyway. The only reason she left is because she saw Amelia Clark. Speaking of, I do have an issue with that. So she's in the car. Amelia Clark walks past like 50, 100 feet down the road, and she somehow gets a vibe that this is a person of interest. Just
Yeah, I think
that was really strange. Where she was like,
It
there was no
was.
like indication of, oh, this is why. It was just like she looked around the corner. Yeah, it was really strange. I was like, just because she was walking the opposite way from the rest of the foot traffic, like, is that why? Like, it felt really odd.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, tracking down a person of interest. I'm like, but like, what's interesting about them? Like, why? What stuck out about Amelia Clark? Like, even just do the funny goggle thing they did later with like the infrared, and just be like, oh, she's giving off a weird signature. Like, just do something like that.
Yeah.
It felt weird. That's my only like major negative comment. I think I like the scene with that follows on from that, where she like Amelia Clark comes back and she tries to like help Ben Mendelsohn, or does she? Because false information. She marked the wrong bags on purpose, and either that was like, because it's one of those things, right? It could go either way still, where it's like she marked the bags, someone caught onto that and changed the bags, so she looks like she betrayed them, but she didn't actually, because she thought it was going to head that way. The alternative is she put the crosses on the wrong bags on purpose to throw off Samuel Jackson and like the Shield guys, and that she was actually, that whole like emotional moment between her and her dad was like kind of fabricated on her part, right?
Yeah. I suppose we'll find out.
So we need to find out in next week's episode. But
Next.
that's the thing, it's hard to say, right, where this is gonna go. I think in general it was a pretty strong premiere.
Yeah, I think so.
It's probably the least interesting in terms of like WandaVision had like weird kooky stuff, and I guess Falcon and the Winter Soldier was pretty dull. But like Loki had like time travel and time variance authority and all this stuff, and this one is like shapeshifters, and shapeshifters can be really difficult to make anything out of that's not just absolute bollocks.
Especially when you've had a long running like cinematic universe, and you could easily screw it up if you like make the wrong decisions. Because if you're like, because I have a funny feeling that Rhodey's going to be a Skrull, and I'm going to be like, that makes. I don't know if I like that. I just have a feeling because that's been theorized for a long time now that he has been, and I don't know. I don't know.
Has it?
Yeah.
What's the theory? Do you guys know? Because I've not heard of this.
Just that he's a Skrull.
I'll give it.
That's pretty much
it. Is there any like basis of why, like evidence? Sorry.
I mean, I don't know. Well, the thing is, it'll depend. I guess the thing is, there's like two important things that need to happen with the reveal, right? They need to reveal it well, for one. But I think the thing that rests on it being a good reveal versus a bad one is explaining how long they've been like this. Because if Rhodey is a Skrull, but he was only a Skrull like 10 minutes before the show started, then that's alright, because most of the time you spent with Rhodey as a character was actually Rhodey. The problem is if they go like, oh, he's been a Skrull since Iron Man 2, and you're like, oh, what? Like, what?
Terrence Howard was the real Rhodey, and then Don Gio was the Skrull. Imagine. That'd be mental.
I think the only thing that they could do would be do it when Rhodey was like paralyzed or in hospital.
Well, I thought that. Right?
Yeah, maybe that's why he's walking again like perfectly now.
Well, that was because Tony built him the suit, right? The prosthetic stuff.
I guess, yeah.
But the thing is, I suppose you could put it as like, well, maybe the only reason he survived the fall is because he was a Skrull, and they're more like resilient, I guess. Not to bullets, obviously, because they just fucking drop like with bullets. But like they have like super strength and stuff. So I'm kind of, that's one thing I'm a little shaky on as well, is exactly how powerful are Skrulls, because Skrulls. Because like he rips the chain off straight out, like on the door, and like they're punching like through concrete walls and all that kind of stuff. But you can just shoot them in the head as well. It's not like bullets don't kill them. So like, obviously that's not mutually exclusive, but it usually is in Marvel, where if you have super strength, usually you can take like, I guess maybe not super soldiers, but I guess, are they like just super soldier strength, or are they less so?
I feel like they'd be less, but they're. I kind of like that about them though, that they are killable, because the whole point is like they're going extinct, right? And that's why they're trying to go on Earth, something like that. I swear, yeah, I think that was the Captain Marvel storyline anyway. Again, like I'm like a big Marvel fan, and this is like way too much content where I'm forgetting like what's what. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm not even sure it's too much content. I think it's just been a while, because like Captain Marvel came out in 2019. Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's 4 years, and it's like there's a, like, I think the start of the show, would you say it does a good job of introducing the Skrulls as a concept, even if you haven't seen Captain Marvel?
Yeah, because I think if you didn't have the Amelia Clark scenes, it would feel like, okay, what are the Skrulls again? Like, how do they work? Whereas at least they kind of explain, like, okay, this is a quick little scene to explain how they change and how they have the memories and stuff, you know?
I felt like those scenes they felt a little too much like, oh, we're trying to explain the Skrulls again.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you get around that. I don't know if there'll be a more natural way to do it, but it felt a little clunky with like, oh yes, a Skrull. Show me your face.
Again, as well though, it's like you need to consider people who haven't watched everything, you know, and they're like, oh, what's this show, you know, and they're like, oh, Secret Invasion of Nick Fury, and then you still watch that. Like, what's a Skrull?
Yeah.
And then you need something to kind of quickly explain. So I get it. Again, it's a quick scene. It's not like it totally ruined the pacing of the episode or whatever. I thought she was good in the show as well. I really like her in general though, so it's good to see her.
Yeah, I thought there was some pretty interesting ideas in general in the show as well. Obviously we have like a mystery man in the like bad guy headquarters, right?
Yeah.
Tall, dark, and handsome behind that pane glass, but. I really liked that scene. I'm really glad they did something like that, so that you're kind of sympathetic to the bad guys as well, because you kind of get their point of view, where they have kind of been they've been like waiting for a home, waiting for help to get a new home, and they've just kind of been left for like 30 years, and they're like, well, shit, like we can't wait forever. We've got like kids to raise and stuff, and I like that they congregate in like radioactive zones, so like obviously they're congregating in places, and it's like beneficial for them as a species. but it's also beneficial for staying out of humans' way because radiation isn't good for us. I kind of like that idea that they were kind of habiting places where we can't. So I don't know. I'm assuming part of the plot is that they're going to try and like start a nuclear war so that humans can't live on Earth anymore, but Skrulls can in the radioactive fallout, right?
That is what it seemed to have set up.
Yeah. Any other major points you wanted to make?
I actually have one, right. So
Or mine.
as much as I love, Olivia Colman and Emilia Clarke and the actors that are in it, do you guys find that it's a bit distracting seeing the actors?
I thought
Or
Olivia Colman felt a little bit quirky for quirky's sake,
yeah,
but I thought Emilia Clarke was okay. I think because I haven't really seen her in anything but um, Game of Thrones, I did find it a little odd to see her like running about. I guess it was filmed in Liverpool, but like supposed Moscow.
yeah,
I did find it a bit strange to see her just in like normal clothes, like normal people clothes.
right.
But obviously, I don't know. Like I thought she was. I don't know. I thought she was fine.
No, I was just wondering because I know some people, like especially myself, I can find it a bit difficult if I'm watching a film and I only or show, and I'm only seeing the actor and I'm not seeing the character.
Right.
So I was just wondering if you guys, because I definitely saw the actors, I think, at the start, but then the character came in and I was like,
Yeah,
oh, so
Well,
that's
it's
kind of
like
what I was
different.
touching on
a
at the
good way
start.
to like debunk that is, do any of us remember Olivia Colman's character's name?
No,
Do any of us remember Emilia Clarke's character's name?
Gaia.
no.
Gaia, yeah, I remember Gaia. That's because they said it a lot during the episode. But yeah, like I don't remember Olivia Colman's character's name, so like I think that's a good point where it's like, yeah, it's just
I
Olivia.
barely remember Maria Hill's name, mate.
Maria Hill.
If I didn't said it a bunch in this
Yeah,
show, I
yeah.
would not have known.
She's been a bit as well. She's been a bit since
Yeah,
Avengers.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I do get your point though, Robert. Like it's impressive to see because it's like, oh my god, all these good actors. But at the same time, like it can sometimes take away where you're like, I kind
I
of felt
think
that way with Hawkeye with
Haley
Haley
Steinfeld.
Seinfeld's mum, her mum for
Oh,
me, because
right.
I've seen her in like so many stuff like Conjuring and stuff. So like I just see
Right.
her. Um,
Or or her lover Lalo Salamanca.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but at the same time, it's like of course they're going to get the big actors and they help advertise the show,
Yeah.
you know, because like again, Secret Invasion, I can't imagine being very popular with like non-fans. But if they see the cast, they might be like, oh shit, I'm going to check this out, you know. So
Yeah,
I get
I
it,
think that's a
you
good
know.
point.
Yeah, no, that's
I
that's
think the
totally
other
true.
point is that the MCU is basically just celebrities right now, right?
Yeah, pretty
Yes.
much. Wait, by the
Yeah.
looks of Fantastic
Well,
Four, but the Fantastic Four rumored to cast, that's just a freaking, that's just like big name central. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like so,
like,
Like
like
Harrison Ford's out
not.
here, mate. Like.
we can thunderbolt Ross.
I think when you hire, not to crap, because some love him, but when you hire Harry Styles,
Right.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's when you realize that it is okay. This is only for the
That was in
for
Eternals, though,
celebrities now.
Robert. That was
But it doesn't
that was a
matter. It
mistake.
doesn't matter. It does. Well, they even hired what's his name, Kit, the guy at Game of Thrones
Kit
who plays
Harington.
Jon Snow.
Yep.
Yeah, man, I just saw Jon Snow that whole
Yeah, that's
film.
true. I mean, to be fair, he was only in it for about 4.5 minutes,
Wasn't
but
Stark in that film as well? That played Icarus. Like, wasn't he Game of Thrones as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like,
probably,
yeah,
yeah.
it's just like a bit like two big Game of Thrones characters.
That's one thing I'm a little still annoyed at about Eternals. Not to like bring this up, but like, he's such a great actor, and they just, if he's actually dead, like, what was the
Who
point?
Icarus?
Yeah.
It was very
He's
wasted.
such a good
It
actor.
was
Yeah.
he's definitely like one of the MCU's greatest actors that they've had, and they've just
They
totally
flew him into the
wasted.
sun.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Back to
Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Okay, so any last major or even minor points you wanted to make, or are we thinking about wrapping
No,
stuff
I
up?
don't.
Brandon?
Yeah, I think rip stuff up maybe.
I would point out, like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know the comic story of this at all, really. So I've got nothing to judge this on.
Right.
So I'm purely judging it based on what they're giving me. So if I like it, it's based on completely
think
based
when you
on
get
that.
down to stories like this, I think because the thing is, right, like if you're reading, if it's a Spider-Man thing, a lot of people are aware of Spider-Man arcs, even if they haven't read comics. And
Hmm.
if you have read comics, people are even more aware, obviously, of even deeper arcs. But I think even some of the lesser known like Spider-Man arcs are probably still more known than like this.
Yeah,
Hundred
I'd agree
percent.
So
with that.
if that's wrong, fucking berate me in the comments. But I think it's right. uh, so
Well, like
yeah,
Spider-Man had like a whole like they had like animated shows in the 90s and 2000s and stuff, you
yeah,
know.
I
So like people
guess.
have seen them.
Yeah,
Surely, like people know who Venom is, people know who Goblin is, and Octopus. You know, Octavius. Sorry, not Octopus.
octopus.
I used to call him that when I was a kid, and it's just stuck in my brain like forever. You know, there's like Skrulls and even like Nick Fury. I don't think it's like a massive name that people know.
Mm,
Like I think he's like a BC tier character for casual audiences, but he's not like Captain America,
I,
like Iron Man, Hulk. You know, he's not like that level of name. He's definitely the biggest name in the show for sure.
I don't know. I disagree with the Nick Fury thing, but I get the whole Secret Invasion because I've not read the comics, or
yeah.
if it's the comics, but
So
I think yes. So
I mean, and you can finish your point, Robert, if you'd like.
no, I just think Nick Fury is actually like a really big character. Since he did,
Yeah,
he has always been about. So
produce. Right. So final verdict. I quite enjoyed the premiere. I think it was probably one of the stronger ones we've had so far from Marvel, especially considering that especially our protagonists aren't superpowered.
yeah,
I I mean,
would you rate
I
it?
watch everything that Marvel put out show wise anyway. Like I watched every episode of She-Hulk, even though I stopped liking it pretty pretty soon. So there was never a question of, am I going to stop watching this? But I'm like, I'd say I'm like, if they released this in 6 episodes all in one day, I'd probably binge it.
Yeah, no,
I'd feel
that's
so
fair.
far, if it keeps up this pace, if it keeps up this level of intrigue as well, as long as they can continue to kind of innovate how they're going to go forward, then I'm fully on board. This could be a topper for Marvel TV shows. So pretty
I
positive outlook.
I pers- I personally think this is going to be like the Andor for Star
That's what I
Wars,
hope it
like
is.
for Marvel. Sorry, because that's the vibes I kind of got.
I just hope, like
The
Brandon
one
says,
nobody like had a thought about until it starts, and you're like, oh man, this is actually pretty sick.
well,
Yeah,
hopefully in 6 weeks, like 5 weeks, we're saying, yeah, this was the Andor of MCU.
Yeah.
But
fingers crossed.
I'm a pessimist and I can't see that happening. But I'm more than happy to eat my words. So bring it on, Marvel. Prove me fucking wrong. Write a banging show for once. So yep, I'd give it a definitely watch, recommend. That might change with what comes next, but so far, thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page here, boys. I think we're on the
Yeah.
same page.
I agree.
Well, if you'd like some more aggressive takes or discussion, I refer you to not our previous episode, but the episode before that on The Flash. So I'll put a link to the description in that if you want to see The Flash, because this has been way too friendly. So I think we can use some friction.
Yeah, I didn't have a hot take.
Yep. Well, and I think just to round things off, I should let the audience know that we are in the process of making a Indiana Jones 1 to 4 episode. So expect that very soon. And yeah, I'll put a link to that as well when that's up. So thank you for watching. This has been the After Credits podcast. And this is our first TV show video. So very good. Hopefully the first of a very prosperous career.